How to make anyone trust you in 5 minutes. Most people have it completely backwards when it comes to trust. They think trust is something that slowly builds over months, over shared experiences, over time. And yes, deep, unshakable trust does take time. But here's what the science actually shows. The decision to trust someone? That happens in seconds, in minutes, before a single meaningful conversation has even finished. Psychologists call it the thin-sliced judgment. Your brain is constantly scanning the people around you, pulling tiny fragments of behavioral data, a micro-expression, a vocal shift, a posture, and making high-confidence predictions about whether someone is safe, reliable, and worth trusting. And it does all of this before your conscious mind has even caught up. What that means is this: trust isn't just earned over time. It's triggered by specific psychological signals that your brain is hardwired to respond to. And if you know what those signals are, you can activate them deliberately in the first 5 minutes of any interaction. Today, we're going over 5 of those signals. Each one is backed by psychology research. Each one is subtle enough that it won't feel forced. And together, they will make you one of the most instantly trustworthy people in any room you walk into. Let's get into it. Signal 1. Use their name. Strategically, this one sounds simple, almost too simple, but the psychology behind it runs deep. When Dale Carnegie wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People back in 1936, he called a person's name the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Decades later, neuroscientists proved him right. A study published in Brain Research found that hearing your own name activates a unique pattern of brain activity, specifically in regions associated with self-referential processing and social identity. In plain English, your name doesn't just get your attention. It lights up the part of your brain that processes who you are. When someone uses your name, your brain treats it as a signal. This person sees me as an individual, not just a face in a crowd. And that perception of being seen, of being remembered, is one of the foundational building blocks of trust. Here's how to use this correctly, because most people get it wrong. When someone introduces themselves, repeat their name immediately, not in a forced, robotic way. Just naturally fold it into your response. If they say, "I'm Marcus," you say, "Marcus, good to meet you." That single repetition does 2 things. It locks the name into your memory, and it signals to them that you actually registered it. Then use it once or twice during the conversation. Not every sentence. That feels manipulative and hollow. Just naturally, at a moment that feels real. And when you part ways, use it one final time. "It was great talking with you, Marcus." That arc, beginning, middle, end, creates a psychological impression of sustained attention. And sustained attention reads as genuine care. And genuine care is the bedrock of trust. Signal 2. Mirror their communication tempo. Here's something most people never consciously notice, but their subconscious tracks constantly: the rhythm of how someone speaks. How fast do they talk? How long do they pause before answering? Do they speak in short, punchy bursts or long, thoughtful sentences? Are they loud and animated or calm and measured? These patterns are deeply personal. They reflect how someone processes the world. And when you naturally match those patterns, when you sync to someone's tempo, something subtle but powerful happens in their brain. They start to feel comfortable, understood, at ease. This is called behavioral mirroring, and the research behind it is extensive. A landmark study out of New York University found that people who were subtly mirrored by a conversation partner reported significantly higher levels of liking, rapport, and trust compared to those who weren't mirrored at all. And importantly, most of them had no idea why they felt that way. That's the key to how this works. It operates below conscious awareness. The brain doesn't consciously think, "Oh, this person is matching my speech pace." It just registers a feeling of similarity, of alignment. And similarity is one of the most powerful trust accelerators that exists. We are evolutionarily wired to trust people who are like us. It's a survival mechanism. Similarity meant shared tribe, shared values, shared safety. So when your brain picks up on someone matching your rhythm, it reads them as familiar, and familiar reads as safe. To use this signal, Spend the first 30 seconds of any conversation just listening. Not planning what you'll say next, actually listening to how they speak. Then gradually mirror it. If they're slow and deliberate, slow down. If they're fast and high energy, bring that energy up. If they pause before answering, give yourself that same pause. Don't mimic. Don't exaggerate. Just sync. You'll feel the shift in the conversation when it clicks. Signal 3. Make eye contact that feels like presence, not pressure. Eye contact is one of the oldest trust signals in human social behavior. But here's what most people don't understand. It's not about how much eye contact you make, it's about the quality of it. Research from the University of Freiburg found that there's a sweet spot for eye contact in social interactions, roughly 60 to 70% of the conversation. Below that, and people perceive you as evasive, disinterested, or untrustworthy. Above that, and it tips into something uncomfortable, intense, aggressive, domineering. But quantity is almost beside the point. What really matters is what your eye contact communicates. There's a world of difference between someone holding eye contact because they're truly engaged and someone holding eye contact while clearly thinking about something else. People can feel that difference instantly. The kind of eye contact that builds trust is what psychologists call soft focus, presence. You're looking at them. But more than that, you're with them. Your attention isn't split. You're not glancing at your phone or scanning the room. You're simply fully there. In a world that runs on distraction, that kind of focused presence is extraordinarily rare. And rare things are perceived as valuable. When someone gives you their full, undivided attention, it communicates, "You are worth my time. You are worth my focus." And very quickly, that translates to, "I trust this person." The next time you're in a conversation that matters, do one thing. Put everything else down. Don't rehearse your response while they're talking. Don't let your eyes drift. Just be there, completely, for the duration of that exchange. It costs you nothing. And the impact it has on how someone perceives you is staggering. Signal 4. Admit a small, strategic vulnerability. This is the one that surprises people the most. Because everything we're taught about projecting confidence, competence, and credibility seems to suggest you should never show weakness. Never let your guard down. Always present your strongest self. But the psychology says something very different. In 1966, social psychologist Elliot Aronson conducted what's now called the Pratfall Effect study. He found that highly competent people were actually liked more, rated as more trustworthy and more relatable, when they made a small mistake or admitted a minor imperfection. The competence was already established. The vulnerability made them human. And that's the key insight. Perfection is psychologically suspicious. When someone presents as flawless, no doubts, no struggles, no relatable failures, your brain doesn't think, "Wow, impressive." It thinks, "What are they hiding?" Because on a deep, instinctual level, you know that nobody is without flaw. So when someone appears to be, it registers as a performance, as a mask. And masks mean hidden things. And hidden things mean risk. But strategic vulnerability, a small, honest, relevant admission, does the opposite. It signals authenticity. It says, "I'm not performing for you. I'm showing you something real." And authenticity is the single most powerful trust accelerator that exists. Notice the word strategic. This isn't about emotional dumping or oversharing your deepest struggles 5 minutes into a conversation. That creates discomfort, not trust. The vulnerability needs to be proportional, relatable, and relevant to the context. Something like, "Honestly, I was a bit nervous coming into this." Or, "I'll admit, this is an area I'm still figuring out." Or, "I don't have all the answers on this, but here's what I know." Small, human, real. That's all it takes. Signal 5. Ask one question that shows you actually listened. This last signal is the one that ties everything together. And it's devastatingly simple. Most people, in a conversation, are waiting to talk. They're nodding along on the surface while internally composing their next point, their next story, their next contribution. And on some level, the person across from them can feel it. Real listening, the kind where you actually absorb what someone says, sit with it, and then respond to it rather than to your own internal monologue, is almost shockingly rare. And one of the most powerful ways to demonstrate that you've truly listened is to ask a follow-up question that references something specific they said. Not a generic question. Not, interesting, tell me more. A question that could only come from someone who was genuinely paying attention. If they mention they've been working on something difficult, ask about the specific difficulty they named. If they reference something from their past, ask a question that shows you connected it to what they just said now. If they expressed uncertainty, ask about that uncertainty. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that people who asked more follow-up questions in conversations were rated as significantly more likable and trustworthy, not because they were smarter or more charismatic, but simply because those questions proved they were actually there. Presence, attention, genuine interest. These are the currencies of trust. And a single well-placed follow-up question spins all three at once. Here's what you need to understand about all 5 of these signals. None of them are tricks. None of them are manipulation. They're invitations for another person's nervous system to relax, to open, to decide. This person is safe. Use someone's name. Match their tempo. Give them your full presence. Show them a real edge of yourself. And prove, through one precise question, that you actually heard them. Do those 5 things in the first 5 minutes. And you won't have to convince anyone to trust you. They already will. The world doesn't reward the nicest person. It rewards the one who understands how people actually work. Now you do. If this kind of content hits different for you, subscribe. Because there's a lot more where this came from.